Operation Abraham. So let's walk through now the journey through the book of Genesis and see what's going on there. So we're going to see this family. So God's going to start with this very simple plan, which is with one man, and he's going to turn this into a great nation, and this one nation is going to draw all the nations back to God. So God has his universe back, and the universe is his garden and his presence. So think of the universe as going to be a huge, giant temple where all of us, all humans, are going to be adoring and serving God in his great temple garden. All right, so the plan starts very small. It's going to take us all the way to the end of the books of the Pentateuch. So we begin with this family. Now, one thing is going to have Abraham, and it's going to be about his son Isaac, and then you have his son Jacob, and then his son is going to be Joseph. So we have this this family. So it's really a couple of generations of family. One thing we're going to notice with this family is that it's a dysfunctional family. And the reason why is because they're deceptive. There's deception in the family. One brother is taking the birthright of another brother. You have Abraham is lying to the Egyptian leader, saying that Sarah is not his wife, is really the sister. And that tricks him. So that everyone is lying. They're even Abraham himself. And the deception of the brothers who sell Joseph into slavery. So there's deception everywhere. Now, we all know that when we're deceived, or when people lie to us, or when people treat us poorly, or when people use us for their own benefit and walk all over us, we become sad. We also become angry. And sometimes what we want to do with that anger is we want to retaliate. We want to get back at them. But there's another option. When somebody deceives us, the other option is we put our arms around the person, give them a big bear hug, and we reconcile. So these are your two options. You can retaliate or you can reconcile. Now, the reason why all of these characters are all flawed in the book of Genesis is to reflect what God feels when we reject God. And so that's the key here, is that what does God do when we are rejected? He turns to reconciliation. He wants to reconcile us with himself. That's why God is really good at taking lifeless voids and turning them into gardens so we can get back in again. So we have to have that same spirit. We have to react in that way. We have to learn how to be like God if we're going to enter into the garden and stay in God's presence. We have to learn this skill. Rather than turn to evil and violence, we have to turn to reconciliation. That's not an easy thing to do. So at the beginning of Genesis, it started out with the two brothers, and we have Cain and Abel, and Cain deceives his brother by inviting Abel, come on into my field here, and then he kills him and deceives him. And that retaliation and death, that's the death zone. Reconciliation is the garden zone. That's because you multiply. And that's exactly what happens at the end of the book of Genesis, is when the brothers are reconciled by Joseph. Joseph could have had retaliated and threw them all in jail, and that would have been the end of the family. But instead, they reconcile themselves, and because of Joseph, they multiply. So you can see the transformation from the death zone, working toward being like God, and working with God, and choosing rather than when we are deceived, as we deceive God in our sinfulness, but God chooses reconciliation. We too have to be like God, and then we're going to be like God by refusing to walk into the death zone and walking away from God and killing. Rather than that, we reconcile with one another. So we're on the right road. We're on the right track. So Genesis takes us to the slow road, to get us into the garden, to get the virtues, to get the right spirit of God inside of us, to be like God, so we can enjoy and remain in the presence of God. So now in the next video, I'm going to we're going to take a look at the book of Exodus. I'm going to run through Exodus to show you that what God does there is he takes lifeless voids and turns them into gardens, and he takes beautiful gardens like Egypt, and through the plagues turns it into a lifeless void. So there's going to be a shift in between the Egyptians and the Israelites. So let's take a look at that in the next video.